Hey friends, Stevie Taylor here. Welcome to episode 46 of the Gig Life podcast. 46, oh man. You know, my first goal was to get to 10 episodes, and then once I got that, I set a goal of 50. So it's looking pretty good. Yeah, if it wasn't for you guys checking it out and listening to those episodes, yeah, it would be hard to be motivated to go out and do this stuff every week. So again, thank you very much for that. I hope you've checked out the new website, www.thegiglifepodcast.com. It's got everything there. It's got a news section. It's got the episode section, all the social links and that kind of stuff, all the show notes to every episode. Oh, pardon me. Got a bit of a cold at the moment. Winter's kind of really hit Sydney this last week. So struggling a bit, but, you know, all good. I'll be okay. Sorry, yeah, the website. So, yeah, I'll just go and check it out. You don't want to hear me waffling on about that stuff, so go and check it out. Okay, this episode is part 2 of the Gig Life podcast Bass Players Roundtable and the conclusion of that. So please sit back and enjoy. Welcome to part 2 of the Gig Life podcast, Bass Players Roundtable. If you haven't heard episode 1, please go back and check it out. So part 2 features Adam Ventoura, Victor Rounds, Dauno Martinez, Mark Costa and Kristian Attard. Check out the show notes and the website for a little bit more information on these guys. So some of the topics we discussed today were the biggest challenges to playing on live TV, social media and its effects on musicians, managing downtime when the work is slow, the most challenging part of being a bass player, and a few other things. So this one starts with Kristian dialing in from LA on his way home from a gig, and we kind of roll it from there. So I really hope you enjoy part 2 and the conclusion of the Gig Life podcast, Bass Players Roundtable 2019. So please give it up for Adam, Victor, Dauno, Mark and Kristian. Cheers.
Go with them and see how far they go. Here he is.
It's a call.
Oh.
It's coming stereo now. Yeah. I'm just eating a taco now. Gig's over.
Yeah.
Hungry.
Oh, Attard.
Hang on.
Hello.
Hang on.
Oh, I heard a hello.
I hear you.
Yeah, hi. Are you there?
Yeah,
Hello?
yep. Can you hear us?
Bro.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, cool.
How are you guys?
Yeah, good.
Good, man.
I hope you guys are all good. Sorry, it's not saying hi before.
Yeah, we're good, man. How are you? This is Mark here. How you doing?
Yeah, cool, Mark. How are you, man?
Yeah,
I'm
good, mate. Yeah.
I feel good.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Cool.
Hey, Kristian, this is Victor.
Oh, hey, Victor. How are you,
I'm
mate?
good,
Long
dude.
time no see.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Can't keep up with where you are, man. 1 minute you're here, next
Oh,
minute you're
man.
there. That's awesome, mate. That's good.
Yeah, I've been going back a bit more now. It's been good.
Oh,
Been
good.
enjoying being
Good
Australia
on you,
a bit
mate.
more. I hope to see you one of these times. Okay,
For sure, for sure.
Hey, Kristian,
Yeah.
it's Adam, bro. Can you bring me a taco over, bro?
I bet you had one tonight too, eh?
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to get one on the way home.
Oh. Jealous.
How are you, Kristian? This is Dauno. He's not responding.
What's that?
He didn't respond. He just heard my name. He went, I ain't talking to him.
He ignored
He's
you,
not,
man.
he's not, it's all right. I ignore him too.
Dauno.
No. I didn't even hear what you said, but I
That's
know
all right. I don't often hear what you say most of the time, so it's all right. It's mutual respect, my brother.
Cool, man. Okay, we'll get into the next question. So, and you can kick this answer off, Kristian. So you guys have all played TV. You've all played TV, right? So what is the biggest challenge in the TV environment? So Kristian, you want to start with this one?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know. For me, just it's more the biggest challenge for me is just I don't know, getting used to sort of getting comfortable with being sort of like in that position where you're like in a live TV situation, you know, where you can't really mess up, you know. So that takes a minute, and I think the more you do it, the more you sort of get used to it. But it's definitely it's a whole different thing. And also the other thing I got to say is there's a lot of stopping. I mean, in stuff I've done probably different. Everyone's probably done different stuff, but there's a lot of waiting around. That's what does my head in. That's the hardest thing for me, keeping my head in it. You know, like when you stop it and start. You know, like that's a whole different thing. Whereas normally we're used to sort of playing a gig and getting into it and sort of, you know, warming up a bit and then sort of getting a flow going. It's sort of hard to sometimes. That's probably the difference. I mean, you sort of get used to it. I've sort of gotten better at it, but that was definitely the hard. Those two things are the hardest for me at the start, you know.
Adam?
I'm exactly the same. The lead up to the shows just does your head in, really does. Like sometimes because it's just hours and hours. And I mean, even if you're kind of engaged, like sometimes you have to rehearse things so many times, and you just feel like you're peaking way too early, and then you actually get to the shoot, and it's just like, man, I did this like 8 times ago, and I was really good then, and you know, you just burnt out, you know. So I totally agree with that. That's kind of the main thing, but at the same time, the expectation is that you nail it at the exact time when you need to nail it. Basically, there's no outside of that. It's like bang or go away kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, I think with TV too, you got to deal with. There's a couple of factors. You got to deal with TV people, like producers and floor directors who have no idea about music, but they've got a concept. So they obviously came up with that concept. So, which kind of leaves you just to your music. So you concentrate on your music. And for me, doing TV in the past, which I did with there was a show called Late Night Oz, and we just rehearsed all these artists that came in from overseas. You know, Brian Ferry and the guy from the Eagles. I've forgotten his name now. He's passed away.
Well, Glenn Frey.
Glenn Frey, you know, and Martha Davis and Motels. That was really good. But as they say in TV land, it's like 95% boredom, waiting around, and then 5% of sheer terror, where it's like, you're on! You know, it's like, oh, man, all that good stuff we did at rehearsal hours ago, and it's like, I think I fucked up in the live performance. You know,
right.
just things like that. So that kind of like, either you're happy or you're not happy about your performance, you know.
Yep.
That's basically TV land, you know.
Yep.
Dauno.
Absolutely.
Getting just looking good. No.
That's important. Yeah,
You got to look good, man. You know, I made a huge mistake on Weekend Sunrise. I was on Weekend Sunrise for 9 months, I think, every weekend, and I made a huge mistake. I went to the chorus of this, or the bridge of this song, and I semitone out on.
Our favorite semitone.
I did that, but I only that happened because the song was they changed the key of the song, and then when I went to that section, I went to the original key of the song. Ah, man, so that was bad. But the TV thing, as far as that experience, was staying awake, like at 5 a.m., you know, you got to get up, you know, and all that stuff, and being awake for the whole time, you know, and the coffee and the weekend, and then you got the gig, and then you get up again and you do it all. By Monday, man, you're fried, you know, but I like the pressure of it. I like the pressure of you know, trying to nail something. I think it's really cool. And having a good MD, like we had Daryl, the MD, he would be he had a separate microphone, and he would say, here comes the
God mic.
Yeah, here comes the God. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The God. The voice.
It's like, Dauno, don't fuck up. Oh, by the way, we've changed the key.
No, it's cool.
2, 3, 4. Help! Don't forget, you can always slide on the neck.
That old trick, huh?
There you go.
That's good.
That's a universal language, man.
Yeah.
I'll pass it over to the maestro now.
Okay. I've been lucky to have 2 stints on TV. My first regular stint on TV was on the midday show. I was in that Jeff Harvey band for about 2 years and got to read a lot of music and do all that. And then I did the Australian Idol thing, of course. That went for 7 years. And the guys are absolutely right. The waiting around, that can be really does your head in, and also sort of, the whole thing of being on when it comes to the performance, the live performance. I mean, there was countless times where I thought, the 5th camera rehearsal was the best take. The live one wasn't. But I will tell you a little story that happened to me on Idol. I think it was like either the 3rd or the 4th year. I remember I was suffering from anxiety, which came as a complete surprise to me, because I was like suddenly, when the red light would come on, I would just kind of like just feel this whole anxiety kind of occur throughout my body, and then I couldn't move my hands, and I'd be getting all these mental thoughts about doubt. The doubt. That's right, the self-doubt. You can't do this, or you got 2 million people watching you, and you're going to stuff up. All
You're
that
gonna mess up.
Yeah. And absolutely. And and it's terrible. But, if anyone encounters that, you just got to breathe, just take deep breaths, and you just got to you basically got to get yourself into a zone where it's almost like it's live, it's in the moment, let it, if you make a mistake, let it go, don't sort of let it undermine your performance, but that kind of, it was a kind of a thing. I remember talking to Leon Geyer about it, because he's a dear friend to all of us. And, and I sort of said to him, Leon, I'm suffering from this sort of stuff, And I think what was happening in my personal life, there was like, I was doing a lot of work, and I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, and, I wasn't looking after myself and all that sort of stuff. And I think that all kind of came and played into the whole thing, So, so there was that thing, and thankfully it passed, after I'd sort of like started to look after myself a little bit and all that. But I don't think you ever get used to it, it's always there's that pressure. Even sessions, same thing. I still, like, when that red light's on, I still kind of like feel, you sort of like you draw the big breath in, and it's just like, and you can feel the adrenaline surging and through your body and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's actually a kind of a good thing, because that's the kind of thing that kind of keeps you alert. You know what I mean? It's like you probably get all your senses are heightened, and you just sort of like, I admire guys who can say that they sort of like do session after session. It's just like, you check their pulse, and it's like, almost flatline.
They're lying.
Yeah, they're lying. That's right. Exactly. That's not me, But yeah, it's the pressure of live TV, and I think a lot of it is your own
you created
demons.
yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, of course you don't want to make mistakes all the time, but we all make mistakes here and there.
Yep.
I could probably tell you 3 or 4 that come to my mind, but you just sort of like just do your thing and cover it up, and your recovery from those mistakes is actually the art.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
our version of mistakes is like is also like our level of what we consider a mistake.
Exactly.
Is probably not what a lot of other people hear as well. After a while, you're picking apart, the most minute kind of thing. Like I was just off on that thing. I feel like bass playing, it sort of comes with this thing of like, we need to be with like completely like the absence of doubt at all times. That's like our job, is to be like super like, bang, it's right here, right now, on the one, you know what I mean, supportive, there for everybody straight away, which is what I was sort of saying before in terms of the MD thing. It's what I think bass players make good MDs, because you feel like like where everything has to land. Exactly. We are the spot where it lands, and that having the absence of any doubt whatsoever can be harrowing if there is doubt, because it's just completely, your mind's kind of like, oh my God, I don't really know, but so fuck it, and I'll just jump in anyway. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just take a leap of faith because you know that it's going to land, and like
you've got to get doubt out of your mind.
Yeah,
totally different to the recording studio. Recording studio, at least can we stop and start again?
Do it again.
But there's one chance only on live TV, and that's it. And man, how many times have we gone home and we've just wanted to kick ourselves because it's I fucked up in that last verse or something,
Those moments, but for us when we're playing live, they seem like they last forever. It's only beep, and it's gone. It's a fraction of a second gone.
And then you ask your friends or family that have seen, they said that was the best performance.
Yeah.
And you ask them, it's like, did you hear what I did? No, we didn't even notice it. So we've made a bloody big mountain out of a bloody mole.
Kristian.
Yanya said something. Oh, sorry. When you guys were doing the Dancing with the Stars thing, Yanya said that there was one finish that he was like half a beat out or something, and that nobody would have heard it.
That sounds like
He said
Yanya.
it killed him for days.
Oh, we heard that.
Ate him up.
Everybody heard it, man. No.
That was Phil, man.
Actually, the phone was running hot. All the bass players were ringing up.
Front page of News as News.
That's his signature ending, man. Come on.
Oh, Yanya, sorry, bro.
You shouldn't have brought that up, man.
Yeah, you're getting roasted.
Oh, man.
It's like, I heard about that.
No, you do. Those things. You don't actually hear those things, and you listen to it on the telly. And you go, you don't hear that shit at all. It doesn't actually kind of translate. And that's what I was saying to start with. Is like what we hear, and we go, oh God, that was just shit, or a bad run, or out of time, or whatever. For the most part, no one else is going to hear it. And then I've gone back and listen, watched the recap on telly and gone, oh man, there it is, it's coming. Didn't fucking hear it.
That's right.
And then I was going, it did my head in for 3 hours or 4 hours until I actually got home.
Yeah, he just beat himself up.
Yeah, and then I got there and was like, oh shit, you can't even hear it.
Actually, what about the one that I like is, when you tape yourself, you think, oh man, I played great. And then you hear the mix back and you go, where am I?
Great, they didn't hear it.
I wanted to ask you a question.
TV mixes,
Kristian, I wanted to ask
it wouldn't even make any difference.
I want to ask you a question. Remember back in 1999 maybe? 1999 when you got the Human Nature gig. Remember that? Was it 1999 or 2001 or 2001 maybe? Wasn't it?
Yeah, I did. I think it was around, I don't know, I think it was maybe 2000.
Do you remember?
But I only did a couple of gigs. So.
Right, but do you remember, you were telling me that because you were somewhat insecure about going to do a television performance, you went to speak to Leon.
That was my first one.
You went to speak to Leon Geyer, remember that?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
First one. Oh, man. I haven't thought about that since then. But, I think... I've got to remember what happened. Yeah, I think what happened is I got a call from Daryl to do a TV performance. I'd never really done anything like that before, so I was a bit sort of freaked out. And it was with Human Nature. It was just one song, I mean. And, Leon used to be, I used to learn from Leon. He was really sort of awesome teacher and amazing guy to talk to and good friend. And, I just remember sort of, I think I called him up, or did I go see him? Or
you went see him.
You seem to remember this more than I do. But I think I went to see him, or maybe I went to just hang out with him or something. But he just basically said, you're ready for this. This is great. He told me to write everything out and learn the song, and we went through it. And it was more just like a thing in my own head. I think that I needed to think, I'm cool to do it. Because I think I was only like maybe 20 or something like that.
You were a young cat.
But anyway.
I have to say goodbye right now. I got to go.
Oh, you got to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You got to go.
It's been really, really nice to talk to your my good friends. I love you all. You guys, I've admired every single one of you, Victor and Mark and Adam and Kristian and Steve and Bobby. You guys are all great musicians, and I really admire you guys. I was a young man when I used to go and watch these two cats play, Victor and Mark, and I got to know I met Adam in Melbourne for the first time, and I realized that I looked at it, I think that's my friend. He's my friend. And Kristian was a guitarist in a band that I joined before that gig, in the 90s. He was the guitarist in the band. He was a great guitarist. And I was the bass player, and we became friends through that. And Bobby I met not long ago. But I just want to say that all you guys are awesome, and I really admire each and every one of you. You guys are really my teachers, and I give a shout out to Leon Geyer as well.
Thank you, Dauno.
Thank you.
Yeah, bro.
I must go.
Yeah.
I love you, Kristian. Take care of yourself, man.
See you later, bro.
And listen, I look
Yeah,
forward
man.
to your hair products, man. I'm really interested to know what you use.
So am
I was
I.
waiting for that. I've been waiting for that.
Take care.
Yeah, pal.
Dauno, thanks so much, man. Thanks so much, brother.
Thanks,
See you, D. Have a good one, man.
See you, bro. Later, bro.
Take it easy. Have a good gig.
All the best, bro.
Cheers, bro.
Now he's gone.
All right.
We start talking
that
about
Dauno
it.
guy.
That Dauno guy.
Then there was 3.
Now they're back to 4.
No, it's back to 4.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so next question. How do you guys manage the down periods when it's the work slow?
I get depressed, man. I go to alcohol and drugs. No.
Actually, that is a very, very good question. I reckon that's a very good question because, it's hard because it's like, you got this down period, and I would like to think that, it's not something that you want to have is the down period, but it's just forced upon us. And just trying to kind of like keep yourself motivated and keep yourself ahead of the game and staying on sharp, you know what I mean? So what I try to do is I just try to keep my head in music, like listen to music and talk to about music to my friends and learn more about music, I find that I have the most intense practice periods, and I'm the world's worst practice person. But I do have intense periods where, it's like, okay, well, I don't have to sort of like, I can kind of clear my mind and sort of work on something that I've been meaning to do, or practice, a Jarko thing or whatever, or check something out or whatever. So that's what I tend to do in the down periods. I prefer to be working, because obviously, Sydney's a very expensive place to live, make money and all that. But, I think it's important to kind of like keep yourself focused, but the industry is very competitive. I mean, look, it's just even here. I mean, you've got these 5-6 bass players, and we're all kind of like jockeying for the same work, kind of thing. So, and we're all different and all that. And I think it's like these down periods can reassess. Okay, well, what do I need to do to kind of like improve what I'm already doing or reinvent myself? So. Oh, no, I'm just babbling now, I think.
No, it's good. Good answer.
You're spot
That's a
on.
good point, man. That's
Go, Chris.
spot on, absolutely. Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, like, I just go into, like, because I always have projects that I'm working on, like writing stuff, like of my own things or working with other people writing. So I just start writing a lot. And also, like Mark said, like practicing. I get into, like, spending as much time as I'd like to practicing, whereas normally, you're learning a bunch of songs or you have to be here or fly here or go there, it's nice that it's actually, although in your head, it's natural for you to stress, if you're not working, but it actually can be relaxing too. Like, for me over here, like it's always around like this time or like just after, like around sort of April and stuff like that. There's not a lot of stuff going on, and sometimes I start sort of freaking out, like I don't have any tours or anything for summer, or I'm not doing this, and then by the time it comes to June, July, I'm normally so busy, I'm like, what the hell was I freaking out about? You know what I mean? Like, but it's just that it's getting through those couple of months, and I think it just goes in waves. You know, you just got to get used to it and enjoy it. I don't know. I've been telling myself to enjoy that sort of time where you don't have a whole bunch of stuff going on. But yeah, I end up just writing and like, you know, just practicing and working on stuff, staying busy with music, just keeping your head, not sitting around stressing like, why isn't the phone? I've never really kind of been that guy that thinks like, oh man, I've got to call someone to get work, or I start freaking out. You know, I sort of do internally, but I haven't. Like I just end up sort of trying to stay inspired. But, you know, sometimes it's hard, just depends. But yeah, that's kind of where my take on it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Vic?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Kristian. I don't have that personality to jump on social media and to say, "Hey guys, I'm not working this weekend." You know, big shout out. It's like it sort of depends on your personality, your character as such. You know, bass players aren't really that very good at selling themselves. You know what I mean? We kind of base ourselves. We base ourselves on our reputation, and we just hope to Christ that the phone rings. You know. But you know, having said that, I'm sure other instrument players are like that. We do tend to find ways of filling in the downtime, and like you said, like Mark said, you know, we get involved in projects, we start writing stuff, we collaborate, practice, exercising, cooking. You know, just for me, like if it's summertime, I just go down the beach and I get so inspired, man. After a session of just surfing, you come out and you go, man, I'm ready to tackle the world. And even knowing that you don't have a gig coming up, you just feel good about yourself. And when you go home, funny enough, the phone rings and it's like, man, you working this weekend? No, great. It's almost like you're giving up to the universe, and the universe is looking after you. If you look after the universe will actually pay you back in some way or form. You know? It doesn't have to be a gig. It could be something interesting, but it takes your mind away from the fretting of like, man, I don't have any gigs or whatever. But you might get something else that's kind of unusual, and before you know it, like Kristian said, man, this next month's just full. My book's just filled up, you know. What was I complaining about, you know? So I think we are the best survivors of down periods in the music industry. I guess I can say the same thing about drummers and guitar players or every other musician for that fact. But I always say, I mean, jokingly, I say to all my mates and compadres, I said, we're like bloody cockroaches, mate. You know, we've been through so many economic downturns and upturns and whatever. You know, we just come out of the rubble, dust ourselves down and go, right, where's the next gig? You know, get me a gig or whatever. But, you know, we have a good sense of, you know, just survival. We do, yeah, and then we don't take it too seriously. You can't take this too serious, really. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, you can't take it that serious, man, because you know there's more to life than music. Yep.
Actually, just following what Victor's just said, one phone call changes everything. Yeah. It really does, doesn't it? You know, you could be feeling down about stuff and not felt like it, and then suddenly I'll get a phone call and it's just like, then everything changes.
It's like a medicine. Someone's giving you a pill. Here's the phone call. Bing. Yeah. Okay, maybe a shitty gig, but it's a gig. And then before you know, there's a flow on. And it's like, well, life's not too bad. You know, I won't hang the bass up. I'll still have it out there on the stand, you know, stuff like that. But there's so much shit for us to do in the downtime. You know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Being proactive is the key, I think, like whether that's playing or getting out there. I find I never used to stress too much about the downtimes because I was too busy partying and stuff. But if we're going to be honest about it,
more time to party.
Yeah, right. And but
that's some serious fact there.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's easy to take part in that, and you can fill up a lot of time doing that sort of stuff, days even. But I've you know, I'm a family man now, and I've got a couple of kids, and now the downtime is actually brings me a fair amount of anxiety. Like I don't like it at all. And like what Vic said, I don't know about, you know, many people who are amazing at the social media hustle in terms of like not working this week, not working that way. But I had to sort of swallow a lot of pride, and I definitely have had to throw lines out. But I'll do it old school. I'll go out to gigs, and I'll go and say hey, and people will go come up and have a hit, and people go, oh, what are you doing? I said, I'm actually pretty quiet. I'll actually do it old school. You know what I mean? I'd rather do it that way than sort of just do this online thing like, oh, just sit on my couch bored and just put a message out to the world. I know that's how the world operates now. I get it, but it's just something about that feels really weird.
Yeah,
and I will.
No, I think it's a better vibe what you're doing.
Yeah, because it actually and exactly what you guys said. You know, you're sitting there going, "Fuck," you know, it's really quiet, and you know, how am I going to pay the rent? And then, you know, I just go out to maybe some jam session or somebody's gig, and I actually just go and see people that I want to see and stuff, and literally within a couple of days the phone rings. And
that's the proper way, because you're physically making contact rather than sitting on your ass, you know, just letting your fingers do all the
absolutely
walking, you know.
And it takes it, you know, kind of makes me feel like it's a lot more of a solid effort than just sort of letting my fingers do the talking.
You can't be someone you're not, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, so you can't suddenly put on the hat and go, oh, I'm going to have to, you know, get on Facebook and, you know, because I feel uncomfortable doing that, and I don't sleep at night doing that. So I'm like you. I just, you know, if you go out to a gig, and it's all about, you know, being, you know, seen.
Networking.
And reminding people like, oh, and then people go, oh, Mark, wow, saw him the other night. You know, maybe you become in their thought process.
That's exactly how it works.
And then they go, oh, well, I'm looking for a bass. Yeah, sorry, mate, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying the same thing. Like, you're sort of freshly in their head when they think of
fresh in their minds,
someone, you know, bass or whatever. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I think there's a bit of delay, but I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, all good.
No, it's all good, mate.
Well, that kind of answers one of the questions too. Was like, what sort of role does social media play? I think you guys have pretty much answered that.
Yeah.
Well,
some people. Well, if you want to expand,
there's another level of it, and I think it's like the musician that presents themselves quite fully. It's like a pretty big thing now, and I've kind of struggled with the idea of it. I know, Kristian, you're pretty good at it actually, bro, in the context of your own original projects. That musicians can actually, you know, they are seen online probably more than anything now, and there's sort of players out there, and that we can present that we're more than we are sometimes on some of these things, you know. It's kind of strange to kind of observe these very like shitty musicians out there kind of presenting like they're killing life, but you know, and that sounds like a bitter old dude sort of saying it, but like I've kind of sometimes I'm like, well, are we actually? Is the music the focus, or is popularity the focus? Yep. And like we're still backline music. We're still like we're the musicians at the back. We're not the front people, and I just found this whole kind of. Like, you know, I mean, everyone's sort of gunning for their endorsements and all that sort of stuff, and I do the same thing, you know. You know, you got to put your things out there because they want visibility when you want to get some gear, or you know, maybe you haven't got enough money to kind of pay for it. They're offering you a deal on something, so you go, okay, I'm going to do this. This is mainly the reason why I kind of go in for that stuff. Yep. But you know, it's kind of there's a really blurry line where you got people that are, you know, really kind of like putting up their best life online, and then I'm not quite sure if it's really hanging in there.
I think it's kind of like the new approach now.
It is the new approach.
I feel uncomfortable about it, but I have to go along with it.
We all do,
I have to create a website. I have to give something out there. Otherwise, people will go, "Oh, I met so and so the other night. How do you get in touch with him? Just Google his name or some shit like that." I mean, we have to learn a lot from our American brothers because, I mean, Kristian, you would notice in America, I mean, the locals there, they're very good at selling themselves, you know.
Totally.
Whether they've got something to offer or not. You know, it's like the bullshit talks and the bullshit walks. But then you get found out when you actually have to deliver, and it's like, oh man, the bullshit really worked there, you know. It's something that we have to swallow here, you know, when we're in Australia, and it's the old tall poppy syndrome where we just have to discard that completely and just go, look, at the end of the day, it's all about number one, which is you. the individual person. So, mate, if you want to go somewhere, you have to work. You have to get off your butt and sell yourself if you have to. But, people do believe you and your credibility because they know what you do and what you've done and all that. And it's not like you're like, oh, man, this is real cheesy. It's like, no, man, I'm in the flow. I've got to get in the flow as such and not say, oh, I'm doing this gig, I'm doing that gig, and I got 6 gigs this week, and just, oh, fuck, man, give me a break, You got to I mean, you show your wares, but you don't show your
underwears.
Your underwears. Show your wares, but not your underwear. And make sure that it's clean underwear.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
I think it can be done. I think it can be done in a tasteful way.
Yes,
absolutely, mate. It's got to be tasteful.
If some people do it where it's like you just want to sort of go, oh man, and then other people. There's one thing. I think there's one thing about getting music out there and being sort of proactive and online and doing just because you want to like get things out there and just staying active, and it's a whole nother sort of like thing that to explore. But there's also a way where you can sort of do people's heads in and be a little bit too over. I think it comes down to what I just said, like taste maybe for me. But I think I don't know. I mean, it can be a good and a bad thing. Yeah. I think some people and the other thing for me I've found is I've played with some people that have got really big social media following, like guys that have blown up on like Instagram or whatever. Then I've played with them and they're not really. They're used to playing in their bedroom a lot. They don't really interact well with different
socially,
stuff like that,
musically, yeah.
And that's another whole thing now. There's all these guys sponsorships and like all these, like most of the big companies now, that most of their like the things they're giving out, like a lot of the sponsorships they give out are to these sort of internet musicians, which is a whole other thing. But which is cool too, because there's been some amazing people that have come out of that world, but there's also like
a lot of shit's come through.
It's not like they're coming from a different place where they're not. A lot of them aren't really out there interacting and really sort of playing music with people. But I don't know, man. I mean, it's a whole nother world, isn't it?
Whole nother world, but like I don't mind adapting to it. I think I have adapted to it, and I'm just riding with it. But I don't have 6 gigs a week to post on Facebook this week, and then next week I've got nothing. I'm just like, hey guys, I had 6 gigs. Oh, how about next week? Silence.
I don't really want to post all those gigs either. I'm doing a wedding. Great.
Yeah, I mean, just to post gigs is not. I don't know. It's a hard one. It's Kristian. I'm just referring mainly to Sydney because there's hardly any gigs. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, no, take it back. There are gigs out there. It's just for the individual who's actually making a complaint or whatever. But it's like the previous question. What do you do in your downtime? Well, that's what we do. Other things. It's not so much your success in work. Mm-hmm. It's just everything else.
Actually, a really smart thing for most of us older musicians, and I say that respectfully, is that we should actually either do a business course or learn more about business. Because the industry has changed about, it's changed. The business model of the music industry has changed. Mm. And it's all those people who are smart and kind of keep themselves abreast of whatever social media, the strategy, the keywords, the search engine optimization, all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't have a clue what all that is. Mm. But there are, these young people who are like really in music schools or have great teachers or whatever, they're just really savvy with all that stuff. You look at their Instagram and all that, and they're all kind of very proactive and and kind of like fresh, and then they sort of create this kind of like this vibe around them, like, wow, they must be really busy, or they're the in-demand thing or whatever, And I think that's a real art in that, and I respect that actually, because that's something that I'm not, and I wish I had more of that. But I think that's a thing that can be learned, just to sort of like, being a great musician is only part of the equation of actually being successful in the music industry.
Absolutely.
You know, there's all this other stuff that needs to be done
Yeah,
as well.
totally.
The networking, you know, a funny thing, like back in my day and Victor's day, networking was still a major thing. You know, going to the All Nations Club or the old basement and stuff like that, and all the musos all around, and you're kind of like, hey, how you doing? And then you're sort of like, you know, being seen, and you're being seen in the hot band or whatever like that, and then work would sort of like kind of snowball from that.
That's where I met Paul Poulton for the first time at the basement.
Me too.
He was a regular.
Yeah,
he was a
Paul.
regular. He did the graveyard shift
Yeah,
every
wow.
Saturday night.
That's
He used to
right.
go down just like a marvel, you know.
Yeah.
right,
The
right.
likes of him and Phil Scorgie.
Yeah.
I was a face in the crowd, you know, wishing
Same.
that I'd get up there
for
one
about
day.
5 minutes.
No, I used to just to face in the crowd and just go, man, I wish I was up there
Man.
grooving, you know.
When Paul came to town, he
Yeah.
was like playing. When I saw him, he was playing with Andrew O, and then suddenly he was like the guy, and then
Yeah,
he was
right.
like playing with Jim Kelly's band, and then he was playing with Crossfire. and
Renee as well, I think he did.
he,
as well.
man, he blitzed it over here, and he was
Yeah.
just like he had the killer sound, great player, you know.
Yeah, he's
Love him.
probably one of the most amazing bass players I've ever seen.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
He's incredible.
totally. And I hear he's like all over the tree now.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's like, yeah,
Yeah. Sickening.
yeah, very much so.
I remember, I mean, I definitely started up in a time very much where you'd go to gigs and you'd meet musos, and you'd go to gigs that you liked and meet the musos that you liked because you wanted to play with that kind of musicians. You actually had the options to do that in Perth and more so in Melbourne, where you'd go, oh man, I love this music, I love what these guys do, and I go, then you got to hang with them. Sometimes they were arseholes to you if you know one, you know, or sometimes they were super cool, and next minute you'd be jamming or filling in with them on this gig or the other gig, and you know, the physical act of being present and addressing the music, and the fact that all of us have to be sort of business managers and social media managers, and also be really good at playing. Apparently the playing thing doesn't really matter as much these days. You can be really good at business and your social media and all that side and not actually have to play that well. But you know, for me, the music is always the utmost importance, and if I'm to sort of take on that social media thing, that is the new way. I want to present the music, and which is, I feel, what you do, Kristian. You're pretty awesome at it. You guys put down the music that you're playing, and it sounds fat, brah.
I can't wait. Every week, I can't wait for that Instagram
Yeah,
post. Yeah, that. Oh man,
Oh,
I
cool,
love it.
man.
It's great.
Thanks.
Cool. So,
I
okay, guys.
appreciate it. No, cool.
Yeah, last question.
Oh,
Oh,
I don't want it to end.
sorry. Last question of part one. No.
Yeah, one of 23
Yeah.
podcasts.
Now, this is one, Mark, you wanted to talk a little bit about, and I'm sure you guys want to talk about it too. But what is the specific area of playing the bass? We're not talking about getting gigs or social media and stuff. That you found the most challenging, like either soloing or speed or groove or feel. So, Mark, you want to start with this one?
Oh, okay. I would like, I think that probably the most difficult area for me to get my head around is soloing. And I think it's probably because I just have a fear of it. When they go bass solo, you know, I just kind of
That's
feel...
the anxiety thing, is it?
Yeah.
right.
I think I just kind of like, what do I do? What do I play? You know, and I think it kind of crippled me for many years, actually. I don't feel too bad about it now. You know, I'm more comfortable in my own skin, and, I'm able to kind of like just sort of like take a deep breath and then just go for it. But it's hard to kind of switch from the bass brain into lead guitar or melodic brain or saxophone brain. You know what I mean? Or trying to make a beautiful musical statement, or what I perceive in my head. You know, it to me, that's the hardest thing. You know, it's that shift in gear, if you like, when suddenly you're the kind of the groove guy and okay, bass solo, and then you're trying to come up with something. You know, and I suppose part of the problem is because I listen to so many great bass players like Present Company and guys on record who are, Marcus Miller, Jarko, everyone we've kind of talked about before. And I kind of think, oh, okay, well, I need to kind of match that somehow, or and sometimes I can't make that shift, you know. And it's a difficult one to go from bass player to suddenly, soloist extraordinaire. I think a good knowledge of harmony really, really helps, you know, and I have a better knowledge of harmony now than way back then. So, you know, I can sort of like string together, you know, look at the kind of like chord or a chord progression and kind of like go, okay, well, these notes sound good over that progression, you know, and I can kind of eke out something, you know. But for me, that's probably been the difficult thing. The other thing is also keeping my hand strong. Like I have a natural tendency, my right hand is actually a little weaker than my left hand. So I have to work a little harder to, you know, kind of, you know, with technical things to try to get my right hand to match my left hand. You know, the syncing thing. Yeah. So yeah, they're the two things. Cool.
Adam?
Yeah, I obviously the soloing kind of demands a facility across the instrument and an instinctual sort of, you know, like way, you know, that like this is what I'm going to make my instrument sound like when the whole band drops out, like we were talking about before. You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to do? Am I going to sort of punch on with the groove and do something with that, or am I going to sort of break it down? Am I going to go melodic? Am I going to high? I'm going to go low. You know, there's all that stuff is pretty hard, and just sort of maintaining the chops that you kind of require to play maybe anything that comes into your head. That's a whole other thing as well. To be honest, most of the gigs I do, there's not really that many bass solos, although, you know, like some of the gigs that I'm doing, people are aware that I can solo, and then they give me a solo because they're like, you know, it can be in various situations, you know, and I'll just have to kind of come up with something. I'm pretty comfortable with the idea of soloing, probably because I sort of started out working pretty intensely on my chops when I was younger. For me, the probably harder thing is like kind of connecting more with like a chart, like keeping my reading together and presenting and being onto it in that sort of sense. Like it was probably 17 years from when I was at college to when I sort of picked up a big band gig in Sydney, like only a few years ago, that I had actually read. I've done maybe 10 reading gigs, actual gigs where I got paid to read. Over that 17 years, I really didn't have to read music, and I know reading something that you picked up later on, right, in life, Victor. But I sort of started out reading fly shit, essentially, and I had monster chops, but I sort of realised it out in the gig scene that for the most part, I didn't actually. That really wasn't required of me. It wasn't a thing, you know what I mean? And I kind of kept it, when I moved to Melbourne, I kind of kept it a little bit, not a secret, I just didn't let people know that I was a fully jazz trained, like I could, you know, that I was able to, because I just wanted to kind of get out there and make people dance, and I wanted to sort of get my singing together, and I wanted to do it. I came from like being a jazz cat in Perth to being just a dude that was out there trying to do gigs. I just wanted to play with natural kind of groovy musicians that made people happy, and play with the Latinos. But reading really, really came into it. And so there was a lot of years where I didn't read. So now I'm sort of, that gives me the heebie-jeebies, is like, you know, like I was like, oh man, I look at a chart and it's just swimming until like I have about 30 seconds to kind of like put it in line. And I go, oh, what am I freaking out about? Just that sight reading thing. Yeah. And I just don't, and I also kind of rejected the reading thing because I don't write, I memorize everything. I sort of write maybe a song list with the key and maybe the bridge change, but I'm trying to memorize everything. Like Bobby was saying, he kind of tries to really internalize it all, because I hate kind of looking down while there's a crowd there. I don't feel engaged with the band or the audience when I'm with my head down. So I've kind of wrecked my own reading chops by doing that, and then when you do get faced with someone throws something in front of you, you're doing a show or whatever, all of a sudden you're like, oh man, this is freaking me out. But fortunately, I got offered a gig in my local down in Marrickville, and it was every Monday for a while, and it was pretty hectic charts. Like I was like, literally, there's still some of them to this day that I'm like, they're so difficult that I'm like, maybe I'll just sit out this bit. There's plenty going on, you know, but like, you know, like it actually helped my reading a lot. And funnily enough, like I just did the Sydney Dancing with the Stars, the first one that's happened up here for Channel 10. and there was all charts, and it was totally fine. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just something that you can kind of, there's things that you can kind of like lose track of, you know, like little skills that are important, you know, to your work life pretty much, you know. And, you know, maybe I don't need to read as much, or maybe you don't need to solo as much, you know what I mean? Like we just kind of, you just kind of go, oh, well, you know, and you can kind of let it slide. And then, but then, you know, I wanted to be able to read. I thought, man, you know, 27, 28 years in, and you used to read really well, and now you kind of dodgy, you know, it felt really dodgy. But now it's back to kind of at least someone can put something in front of me and I can go, yeah, sweet, I can do this now. But it's really mental, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome. Kristian.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what you guys said, both of those would, yeah, that's definitely two things for me, like reading and also the soloing thing. And I guess it's because, you know, that's like what you said, Adam. It's just because you don't really, you know, you go through periods where you don't really have to do either quite like regularly. So you end up just sort of getting a little bit like something that, oh yeah, you know, you haven't really done it much. So then when it comes time to do it, you don't really feel comfortable about it. But I feel like, for me too, I grew up reading and I played, like, as Dauno said, I played guitar. So I learned like treble clef more. So, and then I had to switch to bass clef, and then that sort of got a little bit like, oh man, you know, it was a little bit different too. So there's that. And then I think even just doing the gig, like doing the voice last year, and there's a couple of other reading gigs I've had over here in the last couple of years, I feel like, you know, at first it was the same sort of thing. You're like, you look at a chart, you're like, what the hell's going on here? What, you know, you just sort of have a bit of a freak out sometimes. And then you sort of get used. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And I'm feeling a lot better about it now, you know. Yeah, that's definitely one thing. And the soloing thing's another thing. I mean, you get, you know, you sort of get in a zone. I mean, I know I get in a zone where I'm just focusing more on the rhythmical, like the groove part of it, and just sort of getting in that sort of, you know, flow of like a heartbeat kind of for the band, and in the sort of, you know, just focusing on groove more so. And then when someone turns around and goes, hey, bass solo or something, you're sort of like a little bit, whoa, hang on, you know, it sort of throws you out of the whole thing. But I've been my approach to it now is I remember one thing. I remember I was on this gig one time, and actually the guy was playing with Stevie Wonder, and he was a guitarist, and he was talking about bass solos, and he said, I like Tino's bass soloing because everything he does it with a groove, you know, and it's not like, even if he plays a solo, and I've been focusing on that, like certain bass players I love, their solos are really sort of still groove oriented. So it doesn't have to be this whole different departure from what you're doing. It can be melodically or whatever as well. It can still have that sort of continuity of what you're already doing on stage, you know. So there's a whole different, you know, a bunch of different ways to approach it. But yeah, that's definitely one that's kind of I know I've had to sort of work at as well. And like you said, Mark, you know, there's a lot to do with it has a lot to do with harmony, your knowledge of harmony, and just working on that. I've been working on that, you know, a lot more in the last, I don't know, 5 to whatever years, just trying to get, as you know, more and more of that under my belt for soloing and just practicing all sorts of stuff, just working on it all. And yeah, another thing I'd have to say that I struggle with sometimes in gigs is just keep it like being in like some gigs I just feel like I struggle a little bit mentally just staying in the gig, or you know, sometimes your mind can just sort of start drifting out of it, or you're not feeling like you're, you know, connecting that well with the gig, and you know, and then there's other gigs, like I just played a gig on Friday where it felt amazing. Like I was like, this is why I'm playing music, you know. And a lot of that is, for me, a big struggle has been switching my mind off while I'm playing and just not thinking or stressing or anything like that. Because sometimes you get like a gig where there's so many things you got to nail and you got to do. I find I'm not really enjoying myself if I'm stressing myself out. And I think I only really sound good when I'm just like totally in the zone, feeling it and really genuinely enjoying it, So I don't know if you guys have ever had that sort of a thing, like a mind thing, where, I think I know I play my best when I'm not thinking or worried about things or my mind's not thinking about, what's going, I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that can be a challenge.
Yeah, man.
Your mind sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kristian. I've sort of come from the opposite end. I actually just didn't get into any theory or anything like that. I just learnt music just using my ears and working out harmony that way. But just getting to that last point you mentioned about sometimes you just drift off into gig, and it's like a gig because you're not really enjoying the gig, so you start to just wander off. And the way for me to sort of get back into it is to actually force myself to like the gig. And in kind of doing that, it sort of made me enjoy the gig. So that's how I've gotten around to it. But the two factors that the other bass players that all you guys have talked about is soloing and reading. I was quite happy to just play groove all my life. I just thought I was destined to be just a bassist for any band and just play the groove and nothing else. And then when Stanley came along and Jacko came along, it just freaked me out. It totally freaked me out. And I think we've all suffered from that, where we just all spent time in our bedroom, day after day, just shredding, trying to get into these players' minds and work out solos. And we all trying to sort of create a solo based around that. I did that for a bit. I'm guilty of that. But at the same time, something just hit me, made me aware, and it's like, you know what? I'm never going to be a Jacko. I'm never going to be a Stanley Clarke, but I'm going to be as good as I can get. But just get ideas from them and then just develop your own voice. Absolutely. And it's kind of like I stepped out of that bubble and just continued on my journey in music, And but there was still something lacking, and that was my just reading, like comprehending written music. So I basically taught myself. I went to Mark Costa, and I got some tips off you. I remember you just writing simple rhythms, man. 4, 8, 16s, and syncopated stuff. I actually went home and just learned all that stuff, and started buying books with play-along CDs, which is the best thing that came out, And, years down the track, it's like I'm writing bass charts and, and unfortunately I just stuck to bass clef. So it was like when somebody threw a treble chart in front of me, it's like, I'm not that old. Just not. It's like, but, after a while you learn, how to sort of like transpose with, it's quite easy. So that really doesn't worry me anymore, because my work only consists, it's like 10% or 20% at the most of it is like required reading. The rest is like, it's the stuff we all know, and it's the repertoire that's been around for years, and there's new stuff, and the new stuff that we have to go off and learn is a piece of cake, because we can just give me pencil and paper and then I'll start transcribing like we all do here. And we all have different ways of doing it. I've come across a lot of charts in Sydney where guys have actually known about the Nashville number system, And I thought, oh, cool, everyone's pretty hipped onto that sort of stuff. I teach at the moment at APGS, which is the Australian Performing Arts Grammar School, and I teach music ensembles with all their best students. And they can't believe that I can transcribe a piece of music, just writing it down as they go. It's like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, it's not fucking easy. You can hear a 1, a 4, a 5, a 6 and all this, but for them it's new. They say, how do you do it? How do you do it? I said, mate, give yourself a few more years and the penny will drop. Just get into the music. Just listen, just learn every key, every chord, every change, everything before not just you guys as an instrument player, even drummers, percussion players, everybody should be doing that, So, the theory side of things, the writing side of things, I took that late in my life. But I'm quite comfortable with myself at the moment. Someone can throw me, like, I can play any tune. Someone can say, take a solo. I said, fuck yeah, I'll give it a go. Because I actually every day, I don't know about the guys, but I actually play the bass every day. You know, mainly the acoustic because it's right there. It's convenient. It's in the corner. You've seen it in my room. Yeah. So I just walk in that front door and just go straight to the bass and start playing. Awesome. Much to Joe's like, oh, do you have to do it now? It's all about just testing your. It's just testing your theory and you're just like
and your relationship
and the relationship. Yeah. Would you mind just being to the bedroom? No, I'm just going to play the bass. But you know, things like that, and just having music in every day. Even when we're watching telly, you know, we test each other out. Says, oh, what's that key? Is that a G? I don't know. So I'll just run straight up and just pull the G string like G string. Yeah. Cool. But you know, it's like, you know, just stuff like that. It's just music around. I've just learned to put up with the fact that I can't play my favorite music anymore in the house because of got to be silent. And we just play music physically, you know, like the bass, and just disappear in the room and turn on the studio and play stuff with headphones and stuff like that, you know. End of story.
Awesome. Well, Adam Ventoura, Victor Rounds, Mark Costa, Kristian Attard, and the early departed Bobby Poulton and Dauno Martinez. Thank you so much, guys, for being part of this Bass Players Roundtable.
Thanks for having us, mate.
Oh, man, it's an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Sweet as. Yeah, don't know what else to say. You guys are awesome.
I'll just say to Kristian, LA, we love you. We love it.
Man, thanks for the opportunity. I mean, it's great to hear my fellow bass players, you know, all just raving and just, it's just great to have a hang and just talk. It's great. And I hope that the people out there get a lot out of it as much as I have today.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
As we have today.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sure, I hope I haven't insulted anybody.
You've insulted so many people.
So this time next week I'll be fretting. The phone isn't rung yet.
Yeah, you'll be putting that post up. I'm available on Friday.
Just do everything, the social media thing, anything.
Yeah, all of it.
Sell my soul.
Actually, in the next podcast we should talk about how great Pino Palladino is.
Oh,
yeah.
Let's do that.
We'll do,
That'll be a podcast in itself.
Have I got some stories?
Yeah. Oh, can we quickly hear the Jeff Beccaro story you were going to tell earlier?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Time?
Yeah, sure. Yep. Well, Jeff, his first trip to America was to do a session with Jeff Beccaro, and they were doing, what was the album you mentioned?
Oh, it was Don Henley, right?
The Don Henley album. So he went over there. So he's kind of like fresh-faced and, you know, bug-eyed, and he walks into the studio, and Jeff's right there. He's going, hey, man, come over here. Come into this other room. He says, oh, what's happening? He says, oh, you got to have some of this, man. Just makes you relax. You know, it's good for the session. He walked in there with a big bowl of hash blocked. So I had to break it up. And at that stage, like, he wasn't even indulging in anything, you know. And he said, oh, yeah, man. You said, no, have some of this, man. You'll feel nice and relaxed for the session. I hope Pino doesn't mind relaying the story.
Hello, Pino.
And, is that Pino? No.
It is Pino.
Oh. Anyway, that was his first introduction into recording sessions in LA. I'm so fucking stoned, man. I can't do this.
I don't know if I can play now.
The song wasn't The Green Grass of Home, was it?
Yeah, can we just jam?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Boom tish.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Oh, there he is. Hang on a sec.
Shit, I don't know what's going on. My camera's on.
Yeah, hang on.
There you are, bro.
Hey,
Let's start here. There's Adam over
Hey,
there.
fellas, what's up?
Hey, man.
Man, he's
Mark's over there.
Yeah, no, I'm in the dark here. Mark in the dark.
Nice to see you guys as well.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, if you're going to lose any of your hair, just send it my way, please.
I think
all the help I can get.
Yeah, Dauno wants some of it too, I think.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, guys. Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Hey, pleasure to chat to you all.
Yeah, sweet
I hope
as.
you
Same
feel
here.
awesome.
Good on you, man.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kristian. Thanks, guys.
Cheers,
See
brother.
you guys.
Kristian,
See you
take
later.
care, buddy.
Bye.
All right.
See you,
See you
man.
guys.
Night, Australia.
Later.
Catch you, boys.